Okay, so welcome and good afternoon to this discussion about the Asian societies as part of our topic in Asian studies. Now, this topic will focus on various social hierarchies, family status of women, education, and literacy. So, my lecture outline for this afternoon would be as follows. First, we have the social hierarchies. The second would be the family. The third would be the marriages happening in various Asian communities and the status of women, and last, education and literacy. Now, in Asia, according to the book of Murphy, okay, uh, most of the Asian societies are solely based rather on kingship. That means the society has been created through the development of communities or to the appointment of the kings. Most of them are feudal style in relations that points out that kung sino yung dominant community or clan, siya yung mas nagiging leaders ng mga areas na yon. Now, an individual's place in the social hierarchies is a determinant of the behavior of how to follow other or to communicate with other people. Uh, we will try to focus here in various regions in Asia, South Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, and Western Asia. Now, this is part of the discussion of your classmate in the Indian civilization history. We would like to go back on the caste system and the social order in India. Take note that the caste system is based on the Vedas. Okay, it's based on the particular beliefs among the Hindus. Okay, it consists of this particular structure. Okay, we have the Brahmins or the priests. Okay, the second is the Kshatriya or the Kshatriyas. Includes the warriors and the rulers. The Vaishyas are the farmers, traders, and the merchants. The Shudras are the laborers, and the Dalits are those who are not being included in within the society of the Vedic literature or Vedic society would be the Dalits or the outcasts. Most of the time, the outcasts were being considered as the sweepers, okay, the cleaners, or if not, those who are marginalized, okay, the poorest of the poor in the Indian society. Now, this particular caste system has evolved as a social cultural thought rather than religious practice. And once you are being part of the caste system, it's either you will either promoted to another class or somehow degraded into another class. Now, the caste system provides a system of organization that includes individual sense of belonging and membership in a large society. For example, if your family or if you born as a warrior, a Kshatriya, most likely your descendants, or if not your predecessors, are also Kshatriya by nature. So the connection here of the religion would include now about the Dharma and the Karma. Okay? The Dharma or the responsibility of a particular individual, and the Karma, that means the consequences of his actions. Okay? Somehow the caste system operated as a mutual benefit in the society. So the good thing about so going back to our discussion, so the good thing about the caste system is that sometimes there are often conflicts among the groups or the interests of the groups, no, they can be easily be settled because sila yung magkakasama dun sa grupo. Sila yung magkakasama at the same time they can easily ease the tensions, no? So yun. Although there are so-called arranged marriages in the Indian society, it is also been a factor to upgrade, no, the caste system of a particular relative. Okay, the Hati or the so-called subcaste, no, this art includes now in the part of the Vaishyas that includes now the potters, the weavers, and the farmers. Since they are endogamous by nature, which will be discussed later, no, uh, they are they are forbidden to accept food from other jatis, and individuals must improve or degrade their status based on the functions or the responsibilities in the community. The Dalits are known as the outcasts or touchables, as I pointed out earlier. Okay, so most of the time they are disposing the dead of the animal bodies. Kumbaga, they cannot go to the higher caste since they do not belong to that rigid classification that I had presented to you earlier. Sanskritization happened when there is a call of there's a call from various caste groups not to be flexible, to allow now other members of the caste or the classes in the caste system to be to move up from one class to another. Okay, now when we try to become flexible in the caste system, we try to make sure that we include now the religion, the functions of the Hindu traditions, okay, and the practices of the higher status groups and the assertion of the higher statuses. Group action can be a potent weapon. That means if you go to another caste, if you could go to the upper caste, no, it can you can have an influence, no, to the traditional clans or families being dominated in that area. So it provides a group of sense of identity for defense and cultural vehicles. So there's nothing wrong in having a flexibility in the caste system. That means if you're the lowest form, no, the Shudra, you can go up to Vaishyas provided that you had met all the requirements, or if not, you had met all the factors that we need to consider for you to become a Vaishya. Okay? Now, in East Asia naman, in compare from the in comparison with South Asia, in East Asia naman, okay, most of the time, the social hierarchy would include now absolute monarchs. As we had discussed in China, in Japan, and Korea, they had include now a virtuous conduct of why did they become a leader, okay, and how they can become influential to their constituents. There's so-called great harmony in the family system. That means they need to respect, no, the young people, they need to respect their elders and their wives to husbands. Okay, so most of the time, since the Chinese culture is dominant in the East Asia, Confucian teachings also are very dominant in the structure of the social structures within the countries such as Korea, such as Japan, no? Yun. In Southeast Asia naman, we have include egalitarian emphasis. That means both male and female had this opportunity uh, to observe or to have a proper function, no, to communicate and to work as one. No, in Southeast Asia, they have this less ratified system or structures. No, that means to say, somehow there will be time that there will be a patriarchal, or that means a male dominant leadership, or somehow matriarchal, babae naman. Okay? So, however, when the advent of the India, China, and Islam tradition came into Southeast Asia, it had changed, no, the rigids and even the complications of the social hierarchies, no, within their specific societies. Okay? In Southeast Asia, age and learning were respected. That means to say that the people of Southeast Asia, they have this high respect to age, no, to respect to the elders and to the wisdom that the elders can give to the young ones. Women also in Southeast Asia have opportunities. Okay, as I had mentioned here, they are being contributors in they can become an economic asset. Okay, so that's one of the things that we need to consider in the social hierarchies of Southeast Asia. They also practice bilateral kinship. That means to say, yung mga magkakamag-anak, dominant, kung sino yung mga dominanting either mother side or father side. They can work together. They also include bride price and even dowry. That means it's beyond more than the arranged marriages. And when we talk about of dowry, this is giving what you have, no, within your marriages, no. Kung pagbibigay kaya. So property was frequent inherited to all children. So in contrast to East Asia, okay, and even in South Asia, na kung saan, for example, in East Asia, puro lalaki ang dominante, ang maaring tagapagmana, no? Kailangan ng male heir, no? Tagapagmana. Okay, property in Southeast Asia were frequently inherited to all children. So, egalitarian. That means, equal, no? As much as possible, everyone should have the opportunity to have the property. And also, as I pointed out earlier, in contrast to the male dominance in East Asia and South Asia, no? Southeast Asia had an importance also. They had look importance to women. Okay, so let's try to look at the Asian families here. When talk about a family, this is a socially sanctioned group of persons united by kinship, as I pointed out in the definitions here, no, by Bertrand. So they are one of the smallest unit of the society. Okay, so it has a well-defined social roles that maintain and protects its members and perpetuate society. Now let's go to the various social family, Asian family according to structure. We have the nuclear and extended family. I think we had discussed this one in your trends and issues. So these are examples of the families that are being evident in the Asian societies. Okay. We also have, according to the number of spouses, that means when monogamous, isang lalaki, isang babae, mag-asawa, plurality, or it means to say about polygamous, no, that includes plural marriages, includes the husbands and wives, and the endogamous is that that means if you have a family relative to be a husband or wife. This is very evident in various communities in Southeast Asia in the advent of our history. Okay? So when you talk about the polygamy, you can either have a polygamous wedding that includes now either a polyandrous or polygynous. When we talk about the polyandry, that means one woman. That means these women will have two or more men, okay, such as this one. Okay, and polygynous wedding would include one man and include two or more wives. Yan yung pagkakaiba nung sa polygamous wedding. Pwede siyang polyandrous or polyandry or polygyny or polygynous by nature. So if we're talking about the line of descent, would include now here patrilineal. That means the family came from the descent of the father's line. Matrilineal is from the mother's line. Okay, yung lahi, yung asawa mo ay galing sa lahi ng tatay mo, no? I mean, ganon, no? Or kaya sa mother's line mo. Or maybe bilineal would be descent through the father's and the mother's line. That means to say, pagka father's and mother's line, magkasama yun, yung lahi ng parehas ng magulang mo. Doon ka pwede makakuha ng asawa mo. If according to the residence, that means kung saan ka naninirahan. When we talk about of patrilocal, that means the couple live with the parents of the husband. Okay? Or the matrilocal naman, the parents of the wife. Of course, very ideal, the one thing that we need to consider is that we need to have a neolocal residential. That means when the couple live by themselves and have a separate household from their parents. Okay? If according to the dominance, that means patriarchal, that means father, the head is he's making the decisions. Matriarchal is that the mother is the one who makes the major decisions. If that is egalitarian or equalitarian, that means they have the shared or equal authority of decision making for the family. Now, what are the characteristics of an Asian family as being pointed out here? So, first, the concept of solidarity, the spirit of having a common interest and an active loyalty within the family. Okay, so solidarity would like to say that you're bonded, no? There's a weekend family bonding, or if not, your family has this particular activity every now and then to make a very strong foundation of their relationship, no, of our relationship. Next is filial piety, that means the devotion and dutifulness of children towards their parents. So kahit matanda ka na, you have this obligation to take care of your parents, to be mindful, and to have this duty to take care of your parents as your sons and daughters would also take care of you pag tumanda ka na rin. We have also the respect and care for elders, no? Patriarchal, yun nga yung sasabi ko kanina, male-dominant issues. Pronatalistic society, that means we have this, our attitude that would tell us that we are encouraged to produce a child, no? To have a child, no? And one of the things in the Asian families, kumbaga medyo, traditional view is that we have the desire to have a male child than a female child. Kasi nga yung most of the regions in Asia would like to thought of the dominance of male, no? Yung patriarchal. Because they are patriarchal, mas gusto nila lalaking tagapagmana kaysa babae. Okay? So, pronatalistic society also would include now for the males, they should be treated with more respect, and the male is expected to raise to be the father of a family. And for female, sa traditional Asian societies, they are somehow inferior or has a lesser function than the men. And most of the time, their traditional views would be entrusted with the responsibility of looking after the home and the children. So, bond labor, so bata pa lang, no? There is a practice now of rendering labor to a middle-class family. Yan. Sa India, very dominant tong bond labor na ito. Na halimbawa, kapag kulang yung pangailangan, kumbaga, kulang sa kita or somehow you're living in poverty line in India, no, you are forcing your sons or daughters to work for a middle class family. Dowry is the goods, no, giving of goods or money that a woman brings forth to the marriage. So pagbibigay kaya. Suti is an Indian practice wherein pag namatay yung asawa mong lalaki, okay, kasama ka rin doon, no? Isusunugin mo rin yung sarili mo as soon that there's the belief na there is a saying or there is a practice in India na kailangang magkasama kayo habang kahit sa kabilang buhay, no? Pagka naging byuda ka, susunugin mo rin yung sarili mo. You need to burn yourself in the funeral pyre of the dead of your husband or soon after his death. In the belief that you are worthy to be together in the so-called afterlife. So in the present Asian family situations, nagbabago yung mga pamilya, no, sa mga various Asian families natin. So for example, the variety of family forms, meron tayong tinatawag na single parents. They are separated, parents working abroad, and not married parents or yung live-in partners. And I think these are being discussed in the family, in the trends and issues, no? So yun. So the Westerners also in the advent of history of Asia had influenced us, no, in terms of our cultural views, religious views, economic views, and traditional views. And this influence brought Asia and Asians through various developments all throughout the centuries or all throughout generations. So, what are the changes in Asian families? So, as you can see here, uh, on this particular column, ito yung diniscuss natin kanina. But because of the advent or the influence of the Westerners, no, meron na tayo mga uh, changes in Asian families such as single parents, divorce, remarriage. Ito yung nangyayari usually, no, sa lack of communication, having an illegitimate family children, or if not, living in a nuclear family, no, in contrary to the earlier discussions that we need to have yung filial piety, kailangan ng bumukod. Ngayon, bumubukod na yung mga pamilya, no? As part of the points of views of the changing of the Asian families. Yun. Okay. So, let's go to sexuality and marriage. Now, Asians have traditional marriages. So, somehow, as we had discussed earlier, polygamous wedding is very common in Asia, especially in the Arab world and in the Indian societies. Okay, much less arranged marriages are common in East Asian countries, or if not some parts of the Southeast Asian countries. So these are the things we need to consider in the traditional uh, Chinese marriages. Okay, so since most of the Confucian customs are emphasized on moral purity, these are the characteristics of the Chinese traditional marriages. Okay. So, the bride's spouse was chosen by her father. And one thing's for sure na in the traditional Chinese marriages, kung sino yung sinabi, pinagkasunduan ng pareha sa pamilya, yun yung pwede nilang ipagpakasal. Even though that they don't have attraction to each other, but because of the family, okay, the family and in particular of the agreements within the family, they need to push it through. Later na yung love. Kumbaga, business muna or if not, family interest muna before love. Yeah. So sometimes they are doing in the traditional Asian Chinese families are they are doing the matchmaking. So, such as they consider now the following factors. Location, background, ayan, yung sinabi ko dito. Minention ko dito. In Japan naman, they do believe in the following ideas. So, the parents are looking for their wife or their son, Japanese son, to have a traditional marriages as bonding to their families or what is known as the Miyai Kekon. Okay, so dapat ito yung qualification, kumbaga parang factors to consider, no? Yan, dapat basic of family position, compatibility ng mag-partner, okay, and the educational level. Okay. So, more of the discussion of the arranged Japanese marriages. Yeah. In Thailand naman, they need to seek the advice of the monks, no? They should join the monks in the particular tawag dito, marriages. And bride price was very evident in Thailand as being discussed in this particular slide, no? So there is now a so-called 2-year bride service wherein the young man usually live in a separate dwelling and attended the local monastery before the approval no marriage nila. Yeah. The time and date of the wedding has traditionally been set by an astrologer or fortune teller. So these are the things we need to consider, no, in the marriages in Thailand as part of representing in Southeast Asia. So Hindu marriage, as I pointed out earlier, producing a son is one of the things that we need to consider in the Hindu marriages. No? So the purpose of the Hindu marriage is to have, as I pointed out there, um, it's based on the continuity of race. So one thing's for sure, Hindu marriages should consider now the sacredness of virginity or the kanya. Ayan. Since the women is considered as pure in the Hindu practices, one thing's for sure that these particular Hindu marriages are arranged also by nature and should consider that the purity of the women in terms of spiritual and physical aspect. So if a woman is already a divorced or widowed, it is no longer pure. And according to tradition, she is already polluted. So very important yung virginity sa Hindu marriage. Okay, so this is one of the things we need to consider in the Hindu marriages. Okay. Marriages has been traditionally arranged by parents of the same caste in the different villages between young people who have never met. So, kumbaga, ang nagiging siste dito is that mas maganda kung hindi pa magkakilala yung dalawang ipapartner. No? Yun yung pinaka-traditional idea ng arranged Hindu marriages. Muslim marriages naman is regarded as a religious duty among the Muslim people, no? In accordance with religious law and customs rather than secular ones. Because man has been viewed as a protector of women. In accordance to the Quran, no, men was viewed as a duty to protect other people, especially the family and even women. If there is no consensus between the bride and the groom, thus the marriage cannot proceed. Okay? Yun yung one of the things we need to consider in Muslim marriages. Okay? If the father or the male guardian has the right to declare the marriage of a woman null and void, if they think that they don't have the consensus of agreeing this particular marriage. Remember that the Muslims, they are practicing polygamous wedding. That means they need to be responsible, okay, in taking care of their wives, no? Yeah. So they, just like the Hindus, they have the so-called bride price known as mahir or mahir, no? So there is a negotiation of dealing. Kumbaga, nagiging agreement ng within family o kaya nagkakaroon ng parang business transaction yung kasal sa mga communities na ito, no? So, what are the status of women in Asia? Now that we finish about discussing about marriage in Asia, let's go to the status of women. These are the traditional views of women in Asia. But as we discussed in our gender society class and even there are also changing views about what is the function or roles of women in Asia, right? So the modern women are very active in various issues. And they are also able to attain degrees of education, they are professional, and they felt that they have the same rights as of males, which is very important in the promotion of gender equality in the continent. one of the things that we need to be discussed here is that in the traditional Asian women, binding is very evident among the Chinese. Okay, so bata pa lang, no, hanggang sa tumanda, no, they consider now this foot binding as one of the determinants of beauty, no, as a potential concubines also of the emperor back then. So somehow, matrilocal marriage is also evident in Southeast Asia, wherein most of the time the female has a control or dominance of the properties rather than the male, no. So, but some of the women in Asia are having or experiencing limited practices, such as in the Muslim community. Okay, they are discouraged to engage in various politics or political issues. Okay, now the last portion would be the education and literacy in Asia. So as I pointed out here, 9 of 10 children in the region today are enrolled in primary school. That means to say they have the access to education. Okay? That is one of the things that we need to consider on education and literacy in Asia. So education, according to the Fowler Report on the UNESCO 1972, can be formal. That means those who are attending the school from primary to university. Structure, okay, includes now formalized or specialized programs for technical and professional training. When we talk about informal, these are from daily experiences. Okay? And we also have non-formal. That means there are targeted objectives, no, for an individual to work it on, no. These are any organized educational activity outside the formal established system. That means this includes now the vocational, no, yung mga baking, ayan, non-formal education. No? Now, what are the characteristics of the Asian education? Somehow, that Asian education are teacher-centered, and most of the countries are still dealing or practicing rote memory or so-called the memorization of facts and consequences. There are also standardized testing procedures. Okay, so there are minimal discussions or there are minimal participation among students. Okay, and there is a dose of discipline, structure, and respect to the teachers. Okay, most of the time in the traditional Asian education, this includes now the respect of learning in universal. That means the master or the teacher upholds a very important lives among the students because they have this philosophical, moral, religious, cultural context of wisdom that is happening within their communities. And most of the time, in traditional Asian education, there are written texts that are being preserved, no, for future literacy and learning and the wisdom behind it. Somehow, these are led by monks, priests, or even scholars in various regions in Asia. So, also in the traditional Asian education, there are distinction, no? Dress is a distinction among being educated. For example, in East Asia, especially in China and Korea, we know that who are the teacher and who are the students, no? Based on the things that they are wearing. Very important also in the traditional Asian education, yung civil service exams in determining to have a position in the government. Finally, literacy is very important to different merchants. So, basic literacy is being practiced in traditional Asian education. In the recent times, according to UNESCO, the GER is a component of the education index. That means the gross enrollment ratio. These are the things that we need to consider. The number of students enrolled in a given level of education as a percentage of the number of people within the official age for that education. Now let's look at the gross enrollment ratio here. So papansin natin, everyone has the access to primary education, but all of a sudden, kumbaga dahan-dahan itong nababawasan pagdating ng secondary and tertiary. For example, in South Asia. Okay? Mayroong mataas na percentage in pre-primary and primary, but ito ay dahan-dahang nawawala pagdating ng secondary and tertiary level. So here are the things to consider in East Asia. Ayan. Southeast Asia. Okay. And Western Asia. So ito yung dami ng mga estudyanteng nakakapag-access, may access sa education from the primary to the tertiary level. As we had discussed, no, dahan-dahang nababawasan from secondary to tertiary. It's because of complexities of various factors of standard of living, socio-economic statuses, and the structure of the families as well. Okay? So that's about Asian societies. So I hope you had learned something about these social hierarchies, families, social status of women, about this topic in our subject. So I hope that you will listen and even watch my discussion on the next video session that I will put in your Google Classroom. Until then, good luck, and I hope you had learned something from it.